Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of the Long Haul podcast. My name's Nine. Once again, my buddy Kerry is here with me.
Hey guys, welcome back.
How you doing, dude?
Doing fine. And you? Oh, well, actually, a bit sick, but other than that, doing fine.
Great. First of all, I think I wanted to thank everyone that's listened to the episode number 1. We posted on Reddit as promised, and I was a bit surprised because you hear from other people doing content creation that Reddit, the artifact subreddit is quite destructive and that people downvote everything. But actually, we got upvoted a little bit and people gave some feedback, and it was quite nice to read people's feedback. So we're going to try to slowly integrate all of your suggestions into the cast. But yeah, bear with us because we're also new to this. This is all new to us as well. So it's a work in progress, I would say.
Don't jinx it, Nine. Don't jinx it.
Anyhow, I wanted to maybe just go through some of the stuff that people said. Some of the listeners, like for example, Burn Melt, he suggested that the episode was enjoyable, but that our audience is already composed of Artifact fans, and we should kind of assume that most people already play the game every day, and we're definitely going to take that into account. When it comes to kind of having a structure or an agenda, I think right now we're kind of trying to let it flow a bit freely because, we're trying to find our rhythm here. So we're also not quite sure if it's a great idea to structure things too much because it might sound too artificial, I would say. And obviously last week we were talking a bit about the issues going on, how to change the game, what should Valve do and so on. We're going to try to tone that down a little bit in the future, and we're going to try to focus on the game a bit more, hopefully. Was there any comment in specific that you thought was interesting from what people wrote to us on Reddit?
Yeah, let me just check the name. Tunikid. Okay. He puts he would like to hear more about how this card and that card could affect the deck or the meta. Well, just a heads up from the first episode, both Nine and me were more into playing draft. I play like 20% of the time that I play Artifact, I'll play Constructed. Most of the time I play draft, and I think Nine is mostly draft too. But I'll actually, one of the cards that you mentioned, I'll actually give my input and take it with a grain of salt. My opinion is my own. And I believe that I might think the card is weak, but it might actually work in another deck.
Which card, excuse me?
The Wrath of Gold.
Oh, yeah.
So that card, it costs 3 mana. It's a blue card. It's a spell. It's rare. And it says spend all your gold and deal 4 damage to a random target because it's an ally or an enemy. And repeat this for every time 1 gold was spent. So if you have 2 gold, it does 8 damage randomly, 4/4. If you spend 3 gold, it does 4, then 4, then 4, so on. My thoughts on this. I wouldn't use this above at any cost, which is also a 3 gold card, a 3 mana card. The thing is, Wrath of Gold is probably a mid-game card, even if it costs 3 gold. Same with at any cost. I find it hard to get value, because you'd have to have a blue hero and your opponent would have to have like 3 mobs, maybe 4 creeps. And even then, blue heroes have little life with low HP. You might get unlucky and kill your own hero in the first 2 gold that you spent. And I really don't find it that good to use a card like that. I don't know if I actually checked Artifact Fire to see if there's even decks that use that. I think there's 1 or 2, but they look like meme decks. The thing is, if it's a mono blue, I guess you could find a way to make it work, but I still think that at any cost is better. If you mix it with black or red, I think those colors have better answers for early game and mid game compared to Wrath of Gold. But that's just my opinion. I would like to invite you to give us your opinion about the card, if you actually use it in your decks, or if you just use this card as an example and you also consider it to be weak. But that's pretty much how I see it in the current meta, and to be honest, in future metas, because the way the card works, I simply cannot see myself spending like 6 gold on on turn 5 just to kill randomly 2 to 3 targets or no targets at all and have it backfire on me.
Yeah, this is not actually something I've given much thought yet. Like you said, I also play mostly draft. This is something I'm working on. I want to get more and more into constructed because draft is getting a little bit stale, even though I'm enjoying the tournaments, but we can touch on that later. I think this card there's a few questions that you have to ask yourself if you want to use this card. Obviously, in terms of just straight up power level, I think at any cost is much better. The main question is at what turn, in which turn do you want to use it? And kind of how much gold do you want to use it with, I guess, because, I mean, you're not going to use this on round 2, especially if you're playing mono blue where you don't expect to kill anything with your heroes. Maybe you kill a creep. So I guess the question is, if you want to do a big wrath where you just put your blue hero into a lane and you blow everything up, that implies that you already had gold. So you kind of need to have a deck that generates gold if you want to use the card. So like you were saying, blue-black, for example, let's say you have a bounty hunter and you make some money and you go to the shop, you don't spend all of it and you try to keep some. There's different layers of problems here in that you don't know where the creeps are going to land when you're spending the money, so you don't know how much money you should leave. You also don't know how your opponent is going to place the heroes, and therefore it's quite difficult to predict how much gold you need to blow the board up. The card is random, like you said. It could backfire, could just kill your hero if you don't have enough gold to kill everything. And the card is very unpredictable. I think that's the main point. You know, like if there would be a scenario where the card would be better than at any cost, you know, I cannot even imagine that scenario. What is the scenario where you would prefer to have Wrath of Gold instead of Annihilation, instead of something else? Because Annihilation is more predictable. You anyway get the gold back from killing everything else. So to me, it is just like a casual card. I mean, I don't know if Tuna Kid meant that as a kind of a joke or just as a random topic, but I think the card is basically too unpredictable for constructed. At least that's my view on it, and we haven't seen it in any, like you said, in any meta decks. So
it would be cool if you could use it on any lane. That would be cool, but maybe that would make it too broken. I guess a lane that you just completely lost, but you have like 15 gold and you're in your third lane and play it on your first lane and try to kill something. But
yeah, that would be broken because then you could make any deck with just one blue hero and just blow stuff up wherever you wanted. That sounds too strong because you could avoid placing a hero there and just cast cards on an empty lane. Do you know what I mean? Then the card would be very strong.
Oh yeah, but blue does that a lot with Conflagration and Ignite, right? You can put mass removal cards on other lanes. So
yeah, it's not the same though. Like, I mean, I don't expect a Conflagration to blow everything up remotely in one turn, and Wrath of God probably would do that.
But yeah, that's our intake on it.
Yeah, I mean, the card would be constructed playable basically if you would not hit your own stuff, then the card would be very, very good. Probably would be undercosted at 3, or probably they would have to hide to increase the cost of gold for each ping. Or maybe decrease the damage per ping. But I mean, surely there would be ways to change the card around. But yeah, I think something that is more interesting from Tuna Kid's point is the cost of the items and how that has changed stuff around. He says, is Assassin's Veil underused in Red X, but picking up play after the cost buff, making Red X fall victim to RNG less. In our phase boots, something that can be considered more as well in light of this. What do you think?
Well, Phase Boots is clearly a blue lever now, and Assassin's Veil for red and black. More for red because red doesn't have as good mobility as black, even though black has small mobility, but at least has something. But even though the games that I've seen, I haven't seen these items being put too much. But to be honest, if you check some sites that have deck uploads, it's been really slow lately. So I can't actually, like I said, I play more draft. I'm not constantly on constructed. So I don't know if you've seen these more or less From the sites that have decks posted recently for the last 2 to 3 weeks, I haven't seen these cards show up that much. But in my opinion, I think Assassin's Veil was like a fresh air for red, especially in draft. Constructed, when you play constructed, you got cards to help yourself in those situations because you know what to count with. When you're playing draft, I think Assassin's Veil change was so good.
Yeah, for me, in my experience, you definitely see more Assassin's Veil in draft. I think Phase Boots was anyway always a high pick in draft. It's difficult to say though because both of the cards are uncommon, so it's not that you get free access to the cards or very common access to the cards in draft. I can tell you from my side, I've been picking Assassin's Veil much higher. And Phase Boots hasn't changed much because it was already quite high on my pick list at least. But I could see how the card would push or would be now more playable in black red type decks for sure. I mean, it feels so bad when your Bristleback just hits a creep instead of hitting a hero or something like that. That I think the item could easily make its way into constructed decks in the future. Unfortunately, like you said, we don't have much constructed deck data. So what I was just actually opening here while I was talking on my browser is the draw2.gg draft tier list by Hyped, which I believe has been updated recently. It doesn't, 6th of February, so 10 days ago, I guess. He places Assassin's Veil as a C tier item, which I'm surprised. I would think it may have made its way into a B tier item, but there you go. It's at C tier for Hyped, and he's obviously a top tier player. So yeah, okay. I basically wanted to touch a little bit on tournaments, what's been going on. On a personal level, I've been playing on the Bitcoin Artifact League thing where they're creating tournaments every hour and you just hop in, draft, and play. I have to say the competition is quite difficult right now. Like I haven't been able to get a good finish yet, like a top 8 finish.
Catch your breath.
Yeah, basically, I tend to get eliminated on the second or third round, which doesn't give me any points. And everyone seems to have really good decks and a really good understanding of what they're doing. In fact, I mean, my user level is around 27, I think. I think I'm getting a lot of people with level 30, level 40, so people that have played more than me, obviously. But it could also be a case that people who join and just feel that their deck is bad just leave immediately. So you just get anyway. You know your opposition is always good. But I feel like in general, if you are out there and you've got a competitive spirit, this is the place for you to play artifact draft tournaments at the moment. I mean, they're running now Monday to Saturday, I believe. It's just Sundays where they don't run. If I don't quote me on that, but I believe that's how it's working, and it's every hour. So, for every time zone, it should be possible to play. And at the end of the month, there will be an invitational for the top 128 players with a $2,000 prize purse, I believe. That's what I've been playing, and like I said, I wanted to try and find some constructed tournaments to play, but looking at the directories of tournaments, there's not much going on this week.
Well, there's a sad event though this week. Stansifka lost his 5003 bounty tournament. He lost to Naraj. Congrats to him.
Mm-hmm.
The sad part is after the loss, he tweeted publicly that for now he's not going to host any more tournaments, which saddens me a bit because every time he did one of these, a lot of people gathered to play. It was a cool event. Stan has said that for now he's going to focus more on being a competitive player than a tournament organizer. Naraj has the title. I doubt he's going to try to make a 5004 bounty tournament with the money that he won. But that's the sad part about the tournaments for this week.
Yeah, congratulations to Naraj and congratulations to Stan Sivka for putting up the tournaments, because it brought the community together and it created a bit of a Twitch event, because we're missing those sorely at the moment. In any case, just looking at what's going on in the tournament community, there's a few events from the brainscans.net league going on. They're mostly draft, but there's a couple of constructed ones this week as well, around I believe on the 19th. So that's in a couple of days. We're recording this on Sunday. And otherwise, like bigger events, you've got the Chronosphere Cup qualifiers going on, and there will be another qualifier in March, unfortunately. So there's still a few weeks to go for that. And there's not much info at the moment, but I believe they're mixed constructed and draft format. There's some Bloodfresh Cup draft tournament on the 23rd. So yeah, there's something.
You were telling me yesterday, WePlay is going to make a new tournament, right?
Yeah, so the WePlay tournaments, that event was supposed to be like a Mighty Triad. That's what they were calling the event, the Artifact Mighty Triad. And the first event that they ran in December, if I'm not mistaken, or was it November? No, the game came out end of November. So they ran the event in December, was the Strength event. They ran.
Last one was Agility, right?
It was Agility, and the Intelligence one is coming up. If you go on their website, you can register, but I think you're registering not directly to the event. You're registering to get information about the event, if I'm not mistaken. But there's also a Discord link, so if you guys are interested in that, the third tournament will have a prize pool of $25,000. And unfortunately, I cannot tell you if it's draft or if it's constructed, but that's something to look forward to.
Yeah,
it should actually. If I'm not mistaken, it should take place this month, because the Mighty Triad events were supposed to run November through February, and obviously we're in February, so it should take place this month.
So yeah, guys, if you're good at the game, if you like the game, don't cover it up. Go there, sign up, play it. You never know. Just look, you had a lot of pros playing the last one, and Mago won it. If you like the game, if you enjoy it, if you think you're good at it, sign up, go play it.
Yeah, have fun. Most of all, have fun. For me, I'm a competitive-minded person, so I just enjoy playing in tournaments much more than I do grinding casual or grinding queues. So for me, it's nice to play in some tournament type events. We posted an invite on Reddit for people to join us during the podcast recording. Of course, the community right now is quite small, and the podcast is also quite small. It's brand new, and not everyone knows about it. But I wanted to invite you guys again every Sunday about 4 p.m. to join our Discord. There will be links in the Reddit. And once you join your Discord, you can actually ask to jump into the channel, talk with us, throw some questions at us, bring up some topic of discussion for the podcast. We want this to be an open community podcast, so we want you guys to help us out, to take part in the podcast, and help us out with some content. Crack the Whip is a member who just joined our Discord this week, and he says, the only thing I have in my mind right now is that I think it is bad for Artifact's future that Valve repeats their mistakes from the closed beta. Apparently, they are still inviting and they're still in contact with pro players and streamers, namely Wife Coach, who recently visited the Valve offices, instead of communicating with the broader community. I believe we will not make good progress, when only a select few are whispering into Valve's ears. Maybe you will touch on something like that during your podcast. Well, we like we said at the beginning, we want to try to avoid talking too much about negative points. We want to talk maybe more about positive things. But since there are not many news this week, and this is something that seemed to have happened, we can, I guess, speculate a little bit. As far as I'm aware, no one knows why Wife Coach and Life Coach visited the Valve offices. People can speculate that they were there to discuss the game and maybe offer some advice on how to change it. But did you hear about this? Did you read something about it?
I saw some, don't know if it was on Reddit or if it's some game site spoke about that. To be honest, I have no idea what they were doing there, but since the only Valve game that we know that they play is Artifact, we can only figure that it's Artifact that they went there to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, they are not game developers. They're not even like the top pros in the game right now. I don't know why Valve would choose to just specifically speak with them, especially now that Seattle apparently is under a huge snowstorm. So a lot of the developers probably are working from home. So it sounds to me like a strange timing to invite players from the community to go and chat.
Did they went to Seattle or Washington?
Is Valve not in Seattle?
I think the main building is Washington, to be honest.
Okay, I thought they went to Seattle. But
I think Seattle is where they do the Dota tournaments and stuff, I think.
Okay, well.
But yeah.
Yeah, in any case, I think we don't need to worry about this. Valve is obviously doing something under the hood. No one knows. And again, there's not much value in speculating about these things. Could also be that they invited other players or they will invite other people to discuss the game with. The only thing we hope is that whatever they're doing is coming out sooner rather than later. And that whatever it is, that it ends up being positive for the future of the game, right?
I hope so. Well, to be honest, you were saying that they're not even the best players at the moment. Well, I have a lot of respect for Life Coach. I really enjoyed watching him playing when he played Hearthstone. He was one of my favorite streamers because he gives a lot of insight, and he's one of those guys that he wants to be the best, and he tries to understand and exploit every mechanic that the game gives you. And I think at this point, he might not be the best, but I assure you, he's one of those guys that he knows what the game has as an issue and how you could change it.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I did not mean that in a disrespectful way. I just mean he hasn't won any big tournaments. In fact, he's taken a break from the game. That's how I understood that. That's been communicated by him, that he was taking a step back. The game was feeling a bit stale for him, and he was focusing on something else until the game would change. So similar to what Stan Sivka said. So to me, it would just be a weird first choice, but like I said, we don't know that this is the first choice. We don't know if they've spoken with other people.
They probably weren't even invited. Maybe they just went there.
They just went there to say hello.
When you're a millionaire, you can do what you want.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah, I think there's not much in the news department this week. It's been similar to previous weeks. What I wanted to maybe touch on that I thought was interesting is that I have a bunch of bookmarked Artifact websites on my browser, and I've not gotten into the habit of visiting them daily, not even close. But I wanted to go through some of the websites to see essentially, how they're doing, and especially see like if people are writing articles for the game, if there's content being produced or not. First thing that struck me was Artifact Goldfish. So for those of you who play Magic, Magic Goldfish is one of the biggest, or MTG Goldfish is one of the biggest websites for Magic in the world. And they created Artifact Goldfish. They were throwing out some content, decks, articles, and so on, and they stopped at the end of December. So RIP Artifact Goldfish. Artifact Fire, I think it's also one of the biggest sites in the community. They're still putting out some content, not a lot, but anything is better than nothing. Their latest article was on February the 7th about the colors of Artifact and how they function, and they had some other deck techs before. Other websites that I visit regularly, for example, Red Mist, which I think is right now the best website. If you're playing Artifact, you need to know this website. They're still putting out content.
Yeah, guys, don't let it die. We're not sponsored or anything, but go up and search the link. It has a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah, very good website. And I mean, if any of
the don't let it die. Don't let it die like the others die.
And if any of the other website developers are listening, dudes, come on, produce content. There are people want content. The game will eventually turn around. We just need to, motivate each other. Artibuff.com is still producing content as well. They just they produced a Valentine's Day article as well. The official playartifact.com doesn't produce any content. What else do I have going on here? The artifaction.gg, I believe that Suns fans website is also still producing content, not a lot. The latest article was 19 days ago, basically referring to the item changes that occurred. What else? I think essentially Reddit remains the most active website, even though most of the content is not great.
Power to the people.
Power to the people. And there's also this website that I found, Artifact Daily Meta, where they supposedly publish the latest text and stuff like that. But to be quite fair, I cannot tell you if this is updated or not because, oh yeah, I just found where it says, yeah, last updated 43 days ago. So there's another one to delete. Yeah, right now, the sites that I visit the most are still the spreadsheet with the tournament listing, the draw2.gg and the join.gg to keep up with ongoing tournaments. There's this Russian website called solstices.com. I believe it's Russian. Someone correct me if it's not, which has a cool artifact enemy items calculator. You can basically put in how much gold has been spent and how many items the opponent drew to calculate which cards he may have bought from the shop. That's kind of interesting. I don't use it because it takes up too much time, and I'm running out of time as it is in the games. But yeah, that's my round of websites for the community at the moment. And otherwise, yeah, I think, is there anything else you would like to discuss?
Yeah, before we finish, there was a Redditor that actually said something like making segments. And this is something that we had in mind, but on the first episode, we were still seeing if the weather was cold, and we didn't want to put just a lot of information out there at the same time. I actually had like 1 or 2 ideas for segments, and I'm going to throw it out in a way to see if you guys would enjoy it or not, because if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter if we do it. One of the segments that I would actually like to know if you guys would collaborate with us would be to mention what's the card that you really love and you really want to see fit the meta. This would not be something that you would post. This would be something that you would private message us, me or Nine. We would choose every week 1 case, 1 reply that we would like. We would reply back to you. You would be invited to participate on the podcast with us. If you do not want to talk, you can just be present on the Discord or just allow us to explain why the card you love, and we will mention you in it and how you see it would fit the meta. So if you guys enjoy that and if you think that's something you would like to participate with us, go ahead, say yes or no on the podcast chat that we have and private messages.
Yeah, and also if there's any other topic that you would like discussed, or if you have any question, I repeat myself, but just let us know. And on that note, I would also like to say that if you're out there with your iPhone or Android device searching for the podcast and you have not found it yet, do not despair. The podcast has been registered on Spotify. I've processed it on iTunes, Podbean, TuneIn, and a bunch of other directories, but we're still waiting for approval to be accepted into all the directories. So eventually, at some point this week, I hope that the podcast will be pushed into all those directories, but it does not depend on us. And yeah, if you feel like there's some directory that you would like to see the podcast in, just let us know on Discord or Reddit. We're happy to push it into that as well. But things are quite fresh, and so we need some time for them to settle. I think otherwise, we've been talking for about half an hour, I guess, and we want to keep the podcast kind of short for the moment since there's not too much to discuss or talk about. So I think I'll sign us out, and hopefully next week we'll get more people on our Discord to join in and talk with us on the podcast, right?
Yep.
All right. So yeah, that's that. See you guys next week. Bye.
Yeah, guys. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.